Hi Sword Nerds, Prev here. Today I bring you a review of the Regenyei Tournament Saber, as fulfilled by Purple Heart Armory here in the US. A friend of mine got this saber back in February, so this is a fairly recent version of the saber, which I would expect to have most of the advantages of the latest revision. There are some pretty glowing reviews of it online, and I don't exactly agree. I'll explain why. To get the stats out of the way, I weighed this guy in with its little thermoplastic tip that I put on with help of Jack Fraser at Don Duelist Society out in Edinburgh. This weighed in today at 863 grams, which is not an insane weight for a saber, but I feel like for a practice saber is fairly stout. Now, my friends in Scotland will be chuckling because they're hurling around 1,300 gram basket hilts all the time. It feels heavy to me in the way I fence. In terms of thickness, I took some calipers out. I measured right here at the base of the blade, just over 5 millimeters, and then right here behind the electrical tape near the tip, I measured 2.5. So it's got that much distal taper. It loses about half of its thickness across its length. In terms of where it balances, I measured this today at approximately 12.5 centimeters, which for sabers is not like crazy. If I just pull out my daily driver, the Castile Economy, I don't know how much that is. I didn't measure this one recently. That feels closer to the hand, which, spoilers, I'm in favor of. Lastly, flex. I think for flex, this is totally fine. I don't have any issues with it. It flexed at 9.3 kilograms on my bathroom scale today, just dropping the tip on there and pushing on the pommel. Feels totally fine in the thrust. I have no complaints there. In terms of, and I've already said a little bit about this, I suppose, in terms of how it feels in the hand, ooh, she's choppy. She's choppy, and I don't love it. Particularly, I've been getting over tendonitis in my elbow for a while, epicondylitis for those in the know. And this makes it way worse, way faster than my Castile Eco at 100 grams lighter. So perhaps that's not shocking or surprising to anybody. But that does seem to be the case. I've already compared it a couple of times to the Eco from Castile. I think this sort of falls short of that saber in a lot of ways. Admittedly, I have added one of their aftermarket nicer backstraps to it, but I think aesthetically, if what you're going for is the kind of saber Mad Max would use, then this is great, and it looks spectacular. It looks like it just came out of some heavy metal inspired forge, and you are gonna scream "Witness me" before you get into a duel. Not my preferred aesthetic. But a cool aesthetic, and if you're into it, maybe that'll be a point in favor for it. Things I do like about this sword. Like I said before, the flex is nice. I think the flex is really good. You won't be able to see it now because it's under thermoplastic, but it came with a nice rolled tip. I think Regenyei's rolled tips are very good. A little bit of thermoplastic is an easy way to just make them that little bit safer. So, when my friend Jack offered to help me do that for the first time, I jumped on it because it wasn't going to hurt the sword at all. What else do I like? I like this grip. It is a very neutral sort of grip. It does not, in my opinion, really favor any particular gripping style. It is a middle ground between all of them and doesn't feel terrible in any of them. I think that's a solid choice, and I'm more than willing to give them their laurels for having designed so useful and variably useful, I should say, grip as this. In terms of like fit and finish for this sword, in terms of fit, I think everything is very solid. Regenyei has been doing this for a long time with a lot of swords. I have an old one here, and they just, Regenyei is a workhorse. Reliability and robustness are not problems that I have ever seen really experienced with Regenyei's swords. In terms of finish, well, I'm gonna come in a little close. I'm gonna show you some details. Admittedly, this has been getting fenced with for 8 months. It went to Scotland and it went to a tournament and it's in weekly practices. So don't hold little blemishes like that against it. But there are a couple of other things that I think could be better. So as I bring it in here, we're gonna start out at this tip and run in, and the blade looks nice. I think everything about the blade is nice. I might have just made it a little bit lighter than it is, but I think for the finish, it all looks good, ignoring the rust from mine and my friends' fingers on it. The guard here is this is a choice. You clearly have two options when you're making these saber bowls. You can make them out of a nice thick, I should have measured that, a nice thick gauge of steel like Regenyei did and then perforate it, or you can make it out of a thinner gauge of steel and not need to perforate it like Castile did. So, personally, I've seen a lot of these, and you can see here, like, these tend to get beaten up. The feeling I get from the Regenyei is I will need to run it over with a tank to deform this bowl. I happen to think that the perforations are pretty ugly, but, that's a trade-off, right? Am I willing to, in a couple of years, replace this bowl and eat that cost so that I don't endure the aesthetic situation here? I am. Whether or not you are is going to be up to you. The other thing is the inside, and this might be kind of hard to make visible. It's got sort of a forge scale finish on the inside. And again, if you're a post-apocalyptic duelist, that might be exactly what you like. It doesn't feel refined to me. I don't love it, but that's up to you. My single biggest gripe, and my understanding is Regenyei might change this around in a revision soon, and I'll revise my opinion then, is this big wampin nut on the back. Now, the Castile also has a nut. Oh, and this one's not even tightened all the way down, but you can see it's a much lower profile nut. This is hideous. Again, Mad Max inspired. If you like it, you like it. I don't. You might be able to see there where the tang is actually visible, and they have sanded down the tang through the back of the nut, which is a bit of a wild decision to me. I went ahead and I reached out to Regenyei a week or two ago to ask if replacement blades were available. Because one of the reasons I like the Castile so much is all of those parts are purchasable, and Castile, in the US at least, will fulfill them within a couple of weeks usually. So when that guard breaks, when that blade breaks, I have a recourse, and I can get, for less than the price of an entire sword, I can get back into what I'm doing. Speaking with Regenyei, that is not something they currently offer. They don't offer replacement blades, and it's something they're thinking about changing later in later revisions. But my feeling is, if you're not offering that, why is that giant ugly nut so giant and ugly? I struggle to imagine a situation where that is useful. Maybe if stuff starts loosening off, you can just get a wrench and tighten it down and be back at it if something starts loosening off. But Regenyei tends to peen most of their longswords, and I think the forces involved there are probably, in general, higher than the forces involved in Sabre. So why wouldn't something a little bit more aesthetic, and I'm not saying, like, it's a training tool, it doesn't need to be gorgeous, this isn't a dress weapon you wear in parade, this is for bashing into other swords. So it doesn't need to be absolutely gorgeous, but something, something minimally obtrusive, if not pretty, just seems to make a lot more sense to me. If you are in the market, say for instance, you're a British person and you have like a genetic adoration for heavy sabers, then this is a spectacular option, and I think you're going to get a lot of good use out of it. If you are someone like me who wants snappy wrist disengages that don't rip your forearms apart over time, this is maybe the wrong choice. At least in the US, there are different scenes, but the American scene in general tends to appear to be moving towards the lighter end of historical military sabers, which the British will say derogatorily are all gymnasium sabers at only 750 grams. That extra 50 grams, 100 gram difference, that's a real saber versus a dirty sport fencer's saber, which I find really hysterical. But if anybody is watching this from Britain, you will almost certainly have run into the term gymnasium saber being used in that way. Maybe you haven't noticed it, but I certainly did. Not that everyone wasn't lovely while I was there. They were all generally lovely. They just didn't like my sword. So to wrap it up, I think there are definitely worse things to buy. I have handled sabers from some other manufacturers that did not feel good. They did not let me do the things that I wanted to do with Sabre. I don't feel like bad-mouthing them in this video at the moment, but I think if it's available, if you like the look of it, if you're okay with a little bit of tendinopathy, I think you're fine. Maybe you're stronger than me, or maybe you'll fence better than I do in some way that prevents the tennis elbow. But I don't personally have a space for this in my collection, which is why it's a good thing I borrowed it from a friend. So I hope that was helpful and informative, and if it was, please like the video. If it wasn't, please comment and tell me exactly in what way I am being dumb, because I'm sure there's a lot of them. I look forward to any discussions that we may have. Once again, I'm Prev. That was a review of this sword.